Arne Hendriks.
I realize always when I'm among people like the previous speakers and the speakers that will come, that my quality is not in the fact that I have a specific knowledge, but that I'm curious more than anything else. Let's see. Okay. So the incredible shrinking man. As you can see from this very cliché adaptation of the evolutionary tract. Is het niet hard genoeg? Kijken, dan moet ik dit even. I have to kind of get closer to my mouth. Which is, you know, I'm myself almost 2 meters, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It has something to do with it, but let's see, the incredible shrinking. So it's the incredible shrinking man is basically an investigation into researching, as you can see, the consequences of what would happen if we downsize the human species instead of getting bigger, as we're always getting bigger. And actually, I propose to shrink to about 50 centimeters, which maybe is the outrageous part that Klaas says. But on the other hand, I always think it's pretty outrageous that we've been growing and growing and growing, and actually think it's pretty cool that we are growing still, and we have some sort of status connected to our growth, and we find tall people attractive, and not just for biological reasons anymore, because it's actually not very healthy. I can feel it in my back that it's not healthy, and most people that are my length or taller know that it's not healthy that they're this tall. This is a photo of my mother in 1982, because a lot of people ask me, so how did you come up with this idea? And I don't know exactly, but I know that this is a photo of my mother that was always in the family album, and it's her with a puppet that she made of herself. And the puppet was always sitting on the sofa in our home. So maybe some of the reasons why I'm fascinated by small. First, I would like to just give you a small overview of what I've been doing. So I basically started this investigation the 1st of April last year. Not as a joke, it's just a coincidence. So I realized almost a year since I've been kind of searching the web, searching literature, searching all kinds of things, talking to people, asking questions. So what if? Can we? What would happen? What would be the consequences, etc. And the blog is basically very simple. I just find things, but I'm also working with a couple of researchers because, as I said to Klaas, I'm an exhibition maker and an artist maybe, but I'm especially in this field. I don't know anything about how to shrink people and what would happen if we did. But I do know that I'm very curious and that it's very important for me personally, and I think even for everybody to have some sort of connection to things like genetics or things like sustainability. But how do you, as just a guy on the street, how do you connect to these extremely specialized topics that really smart people that have been studying their whole life? They are shaping our future, and there's no way I can kind of be part of that discussion. There's no way I can really understand what's going on there. And this pisses me off in a lot of things in my life, but especially in these two fields. Another thing is sustainability. There's a lot of discussions about these things. A lot of them I feel that I'm losing my interest, and I think that is happening with a lot of people, and that's of course very, very dangerous, because if 7 billion people start to lose their interest in an issue like sustainability, then that's it's going to be very harmful for all of us. So I also do this project to keep my own interest in an issue like sustainability alive. These are the researchers I'm working with. I didn't know I was already on this. The first one I want to mention is Martijn Jansen, because he's actually with me in the Trouwgebouw researching food. And maybe he can say something about what he is researching later on. He's all the way in the back, so I don't know if that's going to be possible. But Donald Platt is an investigator of space technology, and Thomas Samaras, he's the godfather of shrink thinking. He actually published a few books about the harmfulness of becoming taller and taller, and his books are really like I wouldn't say a Bible, that's a bit heavy, but they are incredible resources for finding out factual things about what growing or shrinking is doing to us. Then we have Adam Zawadzki, who's a pretty well-known artist. Helene Klopper is a designer. Livia Poncio helps me with film and entertainment. Mirjam van Rijsing is, well, it doesn't matter. All these people are specialists in their field. This is the point that I want to make, because I'm an amateur and I'm just curious. I need to work with people that know. And I'm sure that in the audience right now, there's a lot of people that could help me, for instance, in this investigation, because you know something about something, and you're probably even a specialist in something that could help the investigation. So this is also an invitation to you to become part of that investigation, and maybe later on, if you'd like to be in the workshop that we do in the Trouwgebouw, I will get to know you. My partners are Waag Society and the Fab Lab, which I was an artist in residence at Waag Society the last year, and they really helped me a lot because they also know a lot about technology, about making things. So anyway, let's get to the back to the project. What I want to create for myself is kind of a map of shrink culture. And so this is the website, and this is some of the tags that came up with the pieces, with the things that I found. And at the moment, we created. Whoa, that's really dark. But you can completely light here. But anyway, this is a kitchen that we set up in the Trouwgebouw, and this kitchen, along with a wall piece, along with a library, along with films, and the repurposing of space in the Trouwgebouw. Is kind of the first moment that this website or this blog that I'm trying to create has a public place. So when I was invited by Klaas to participate, I thought, okay, so how can I turn a blog into something that becomes a bit more than just a blog? And basically this is what it became. You can see it. And that's, let's see if this works. How do you... The film doesn't work, like always. Huh? It does? 2 seconds? It's a bit longer than that. Anyway, and one more part of the setting, which I just want to paint the setting before I go into the actual information, is that I invited puppeteers to come and take 50-centimeter dolls, and not to play a kind of puppeteering, funny, kind of romantic play, but to have them really investigate the space. Because what I wanted them to do is to kind of go into the mindset of a 50-centimeter person and just find out how it would feel. Because as we can all imagine, if you would be 50 centimeters right now, the space would be completely different. The chairs would be huge, you know. If we're not all 50 centimeters, the people would be huge. And this mental aspect of the whole investigation has my attention, maybe even more than the technological and the genetic aspects. Oh, hey. So it's just a short film where, you know, they really didn't know what they were getting into because I didn't give them any brief. I just wanted them to come, take these dolls, and investigate the space. So now what they started to do is, for instance, they're doing an investigation. How many steps would you take if you would be 50 centimeters and things like this. They were jumping around. And the interesting thing is, of course, the questions of the body is, how will our body change? Will we become relatively stronger? Things like this. And so they the whole brief of questions. They were investigating, making notes, and giving me feedback about, you know, okay, well, psychologically it felt a bit kind of strange, or you should think about this, or can we actually jump on this chair, or how strong would we be? So they gave me a lot of questions, which I don't have answers to, but the questions are, of course, very interesting. So these are the statistics on the Incredible Shrinking Man. If you are 50 centimeters, your weight would probably be around 1.7 kilograms, because you shrink proportionally. You don't just become 1/4 of what you are now, everything becomes smaller. So you would only be this light. Your head would be about 6 by 4 centimeters. Your mouth would be only 2 centimeters wide, which, of course, if we're thinking about food, this is something we have to take into consideration. Your eyes would only be 1 centimeter wide. How does that influence the way we see? Your hands would be tiny. I mean, I just had a little baby on my lap the other day. I mean, yeah, you know, it's hard to even imagine, but it's beautiful. How does this work? I mean, some people say just 1.7 kilograms. The thing is that it's actually Archimedes' law. It's like if you grow 20% larger, and this is actually what happened over the last 200 years. People became almost 20% larger. It means that you need 70%, 73% more calories, because actually your weight will be 73% more. The other way around, the same thing. If you become 20% smaller, your weight will go down 73%. You need 73% less calories, 73% less energy to transport yourself. It looks a bit like this. Like it becomes next to nothing at some point. And the other way around, it goes really steep up. So not only are we is the population in the world growing, the people in the world are also getting a lot bigger, which is maybe even a bigger problem than the fact that we are with so many. If you would be 50 centimeters, you only need about 2% of the resources that you are now on average using. And I mean calories, the cloth for your clothes, and energy to transport yourself, etc. Hard to see, but that's the world population in billions of people. Around the time of Jesus Christ, there were about 100 million people in the world. Today, after this summer, there will be 7 billion. It's somewhere September, October, November. They're not quite sure, but around this time this year, we'll have 7 billion people populating the Earth. 7 billion people that have on average grown between 10 and 20% in size over the last 200 years, let's say. That means that if you would be 50 centimeters and there would be 7 billion people, just to illustrate the idea, that would be more or less 150 million instead of 7 billion. You would use the same resources as 150 million people would use. I think that's like the population of Pakistan or Nigeria, or 10 times Shanghai. Just imagine that that's also kind of the pollution you would create and the resources you would need. One thing that I'm very interested in, together with Martijn Jansen there in the back, is what would be our relationship? How would this change our relationship with all our ingredients, with our food supply? Of course, this is an ostrich egg and I think a quail's egg. I mean, I think an ostrich egg makes about 20 omelets. We calculated that if you use if you're 50 centimeters, one chicken would feed 100 people. It's hard to imagine, but that's the same. Proportionately, that would be like eating an ostrich. We could all feed ourselves with one ostrich. We could all feed ourselves with one chicken if we were all 50 centimeters, just to kind of get an idea of the abundance. To get an idea of the abundance of resources that we would all of a sudden have available. Energy resources, of course. I mean, this is the first class Pan Am flight plane, something where there's a few people sitting in first class enjoying a very expensive flight. But just imagine how many people could go into one plane, or how small the planes could actually get. Pollution. Yeah, that's the footprint cliche, but I mean our footprint would be very, very small, of course. I like that idea. Our relative physical strength would be much higher, because not only if you become, okay, let's say if you become 20% taller, your strength also gets bigger, but only by 44%. Meaning that the 75% that you became heavier is not fully supported by that 44% increase in muscle. The other way around, it works the same. If you become 20% smaller, your muscles only get 44% less strong, but your weight goes down 73%, meaning that you have excess power. And this power, any small animal you see, they can run really fast, they can jump really high, the cat just goes there. This is because of the weight-strength relationship. And I mean, in a way, we would all feel like superheroes. And of course, that's also why the ant is so strong.